So the funniest thing is that I actually wanted to make this video probably was that like roughly like 4 weeks ago, a month ago when Novak was playing Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in the third round of French Open 2023, of course. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because I looked at the odds, and the odds said Novak is a 5.5 to 1 roughly favorite versus Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in the third round of French Open, which would mean that if you would simulate that match 100 times, the odds makers would think that roughly 18 times Alejandro Davidovich Fokina would beat Novak Djokovic at the French Open. This is not a Masters, it's not an ATP 500, ATP 250, whatever, Davis Cup, whatever, Laver Cup. This is the Grand Slam, one of the four Grand Slams. Novak has won at that point 22 Grand Slams. Alejandro hasn't even played the quarterfinal. And it's like I looked at that, and the funniest thing is that the odds makers always get it right, right? I mean, they are the odds makers. They have endless odds, great people, stats, computers, whatever, and they have the edge. They will, chop off 5, 10%, whatever it is. So it's like, what? How can you get that so wrong? I mean, you have endless evidence of Novak Djokovic basically just winning versus guys like Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, or better say, never losing to guys like Alejandro Davidovich Fokina at the Grand Slams, never losing to guys way better than Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. I mean, guys who like are top 20 for stars, because I think Alejandro was never in the top 20, top 10, borderline top 10, borderline top 5, top 5. I mean, he's just not losing to these guys. Like, he's not. And I understand that Novak was totally off form. Best results since Australia was a quarterfinal in Rome. He was kind of like shit in Banja Luka. He was kind of playing like shit in Monte Carlo, whatever. He couldn't play in America. He lost in, I think, Dubai, was it, to Medvedev? I'm not really sure. And you could think, oh, well, is that it? When Federer was 36, he wasn't really playing at the French Open. Maybe that's it. Maybe Novak's never going to win the French Open. Oh, he lost in the quarterfinals last year. But you kind of don't realize he lost in Nadal, and it was still like a really competitive match. Like, I'm not going to, sit here and say, well, he could have won, should have won, but that was a really competitive four-set match versus Nadal, who's the cold from clay. So it's like, what do you expect? Like, you know what I mean? And to think that Alejandro David Chokina, I know he was like in form, whatever, had good results, could actually beat him. I actually simulated that match 100 times in my head, and there was like maybe one time that Novak maybe pulls a muscle and then he's like hurt, but he has to finish, and then Alejandro plays great and he beats him in 5 sets. But it's not gonna happen. Like, you know what I mean? It was it was actually mind-boggling, in my opinion, to have those kind of odds. I almost wish that I was like gambling and put the whole house on it that I don't have, and have a house in the sixth of a house next day. So actually, I got the idea to like make a video compare the floors between Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, because I think the floors. I mean, you can argue about ceilings, you can argue about peaks, you can argue about this, that, and so on and so forth. But I think the floor is always going to be a great representation of how well somebody plays tennis. Because if you look at Novak, sorry for that random pause, I was just kind of collecting my thoughts. If you look at Novak, I think he has by a significant margin the highest floor out of anybody in tennis. Like, he's just not going to lose to guys who are like not Grand Slam champions at Grand Slams. Nadal has a really good floor, and I'll show you Nadal right here. So here's Nadal, and if you look at Nadal's stats, okay, I can put it here so you can see it. If you look at Nadal's stats, obviously the French is not going to lose to randoms. At Wimbledon, I think he had a couple of bad losses. If you look like 2000 from 2012 to 2017, he actually had a couple of bad losses. But even on hard courts, U.S. Open, Australian Open, you're most likely going to have to be a, I don't know, team, Tsitsipas, Wawrinka, somebody like that. If you mostly exclude Nadal's 2-year bad period from 2015 to 2016, you're going to still have to be somebody who's like at least a established top 5 player, if not a Grand Slam champion, to beat Rafael Nadal. And yes, you can say he had a couple of bad losses, like to TFO and I think to McDonald, whatever. But that was kind of like that's not the real Nadal. I mean, Nadal for a solid 12, 13, 14 year period of time, he's not going to lose most likely to anybody who's like not a established player, established top five player. I mean, you have to be at least a 60 plus. So Nadal's, floor is pretty high. When we look at Federer floor, yes, this period from 2004, 2005, to like 2009-ish, 2010, like he's just not going to lose to anybody besides Nadal at French. And then I think he lost to Safin here, and then he lost to Novak. But later on, and I think this is key for Federer when it comes to the GOAT race, he actually missed a couple of opportunities to win slams because Nadal pretty much maximized everything, and his winning percentage in the final kind of shows that in the finals. Um, but Federer kind of, I mean, he had a couple of questionable losses, and you can all, well, he's a bit older, but Novak's winning at 36. I mean, Federer was less than 36 when he had a couple of these losses. I mean, he lost to Tsonga at Wimbledon after being up 2-0. He lost to Anderson at Wimbledon after having a match point, being up 2-0. He lost to Dimitrov at US Open, I think it was 2017, up 2-1. I'm not going to say nothing about Del Potro in 2009 because Del Potro was playing great and, Federer was due to lose to somebody. I'm not going to complain about that. But he had losses to Birdie. He had losses to Chilich. Yes, Chilich is a Grand Slam champion, I know. But he had a couple of like, quarterfinal, semifinal, fourth round losses to guys who are like not really there. I mean, they are kind of there, but it's Tsonga, guy played one final. It's Burdick. I mean, he played one or two finals, whatever. Um, you kind of like think about these losses and think about them like, man, Federer should really beat these guys. Novak is not losing to these guys because you always compare the two or compare the three, and you can say, well, Novak's really not losing to these guys. And Federer had a couple of opportunities to win more slams when maybe Novak wasn't there or Nadal wasn't there. So that's kind of Federer. So I ran Federer when it comes to his floor during the course of his whole career at number three. And the undisputed number one is Novak because if you look uh, at his career starting from late 2010, he's just not going to lose to guys if he's like remotely healthy that are not basically Grand Slam champions. Because well, let's just start from 2011 because you can start from 2010, it's the same thing. But he won the Australian Open. He lost to Federer at French, by the way, one of the greatest Federer matches versus Novak of all time. Like, I was truly impressed. I was 13 years old, a huge Novak fan, but I was truly impressed by Federer, how he beat him. I mean, Novak was on a 40, I think, two match winning streak. Won Wimbledon, won US Open, won Australia, lost to Nadal, lost to Federer, lost to Murray, all Grand Slam champions. Won Australia again, lost to Nadal, yes, semifinal 2013. Yeah, that match was like one of the greatest losses I think of Novak's career because he was so close to winning. And I'll never forget that point. He was up a break in the fifth set and he had an easy smash put away and he kind of tangled in the net. He lost the point and Nadal was like pointing at him like, yeah. So I was like, yeah. I mean, it probably would have been 5-3 after that game because he would have the advantage after that point, and then he may have won that match, but it is what it is. That was a painful loss. He lost to Murray. He lost to Jesus, who Nadal. Wawrinka, also Grand Slam champion. Nadal again, French Open. Won Wimbledon. And then probably the worst loss here is Kei Nishikori. Like Kei Nishikori, never a Grand Slam champion, only one final. I think he was top five, but he wasn't like racking up semifinals and finals all the time. Like he wasn't like racking up Masters tournaments. Like he's not on the level of at least Wawrinka. So, probably easily the worst loss here because after this is a W, this is Wawrinka, this is W, 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 and then a 2 year period of kind of, downfall slash injury slash other problems. And, it started off with Query and basically emotionally being done. You can say that Query is a bad loss, but after it was Wawrinka, and then the injury really started happening with I think Istomin, and then Team, and then he actually didn't finish the match versus Burdick. He didn't even play because he had surgery. It was Chunk here. It was Cecchinato, and after it. Again, the randoms are done, and when I kind of think about it, it's funny because like Tom Brady was in his box at the French Open final. Uh, Actually, do I have this camera on? Okay, yes, okay. Tom Brady, actually, his career looks really similar because Tom Brady had basically two Hall of Fame careers, separated by an injury right in the middle. And Novak has two, I mean, almost, I mean, without Nadal and Federer, these two careers would be in the GOAT argument, basically, because it's a career slam. So these two careers from 2011 to 2016 and from 2018 to 2023 and counting would be basically an argument with guys like Sampras for the status. So it's actually amazing when you think about it. Same as Brady, who had three Super Bowls and then an injury and then four Super Bowls with like, a couple of MVPs. So that's actually fascinating to think about it because after 2018, you know, WWW, and then that awful match the team. I'll never forget that match. That was like really bad. Thank God for the roof. I mean, Dominic's team, Grand Slam champion, top three player on clay when he's playing well. But yeah, that match sucked. With the wind, with the rain, with the like, I don't know. They stopped that match 15 times. They played for 2 days, whatever. Won Wimbledon, then Wawrinka with an injury, then won Australia. Then it was like the other way around. It was disqualification and then losing to Nadal, and Wimbledon wasn't held. WWW Medvedev, who since 2019 is, I think, top two on hard court easily. I mean, easily. Couldn't play in Australia. Nadal, quarterfinal. Um, Won Wimbledon, couldn't play in America, won one and two wins away from winning. So, I mean, if you look at these two periods of Novak's career, Kane Nishikori is easily that one loss, and then Cilic in the final, probably he would have beat him. I don't know, not going to disrespect Cilic here, but like that's the one like loss that doesn't fit the narrative of you have to be a Grand Slam champion to beat Novak. Like you have to be Jesus, like on another level. So to have somebody like Alejandro Davidovich looking like I don't care what kind of season did Novak have, to have Alejandro Davidovich looking at 5-1, 5.5-1 underdog versus Novak, like Sinner should be right now in the semifinal, probably like a 5-1 underdog versus Novak. Because Sinner is actually a top 10 player, really young, talented. Like that's going to be a tough match. Sinner is up 2-0. And one more thing, when it comes to like Novak's performance, I actually find guys on Twitter like complaining about draws and he has to play Horkach in the fourth round. Oh, Rublev is dangerous, and it's like yes, Novak can be frustrating when you watch them and you're afraid that maybe today's the day when Novak finally loses. But I still think that it's not going to happen for the next like 2 years. I think guys like Horkach can have 30 plus aces. But you can see in the Horkach match in the fourth set, middle of the fourth set, Novak kind of turning up. Like you can sense the energy that he raises his level of effort. I think that's the key because on default, Novak can beat anybody basically up to like world number 30 without putting in any effort. And then occasionally somebody in the 20s and the 10s give him trouble. And then he has to raise the effort like he did in the late fourth set versus Hurkacz. Like Hurkacz was giving him trouble because Hurkacz was serving out of his mind, which was kind of low-key expected. And it was a break in the middle, whatever. And if the match would, so he could have easily lost the first set. If the match would go like he's down the set to Horkacz, he would raise his level, his intensity in the second set. So he would not need a tiebreak. I think I'm pretty sure he would not need a tiebreak in the second set to beat Horkacz. Like he would take it more seriously, like he did in the Rublev match. Because immediately after losing a set to Rublev, he's like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to risk it being down 2-0 versus the guy. I'm gonna have to take him seriously." And he raised his level and he, beat him. And Rublev put up a nice effort. I mean, third set, the 10 game of the third set, it was really difficult. But even if Rublev would have won that game, I think Novak would still beat him. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure even 7-5 in that set because effort was there. And these guys, I mean, we saw it in the Alcaraz match. I didn't really make a video about Alcaraz Novak in the Roland Garros semifinal. But I think when you look at the effort, Novak is the absolute king of maintaining energy and calculating how much energy he needs to put in certain points of the match. Because Alcaraz and Novak, I think the key was the first set because Novak won in 6-3. He started off really well. And in the second set, you can see Alcaraz from the middle of the second set up until the end of the second set, like playing out of his mind when it comes to effort, like sprinting for the balls he should not sprint, like not giving up when he should give up, like putting ridiculous effort. And it did come with some results because he did end up winning the second set. But you cannot play like that. You cannot play a best of five match and go 30 minutes just all out, like just all out. And you could see that Novak was actually also playing hard, but he knew when he needed to be measured, and Alcaraz didn't. So that was, I think, the key to that match. And then after that, Alcaraz's body was done. So actually, Novak is the king when it comes to preserving energy, when it comes to being fresh when it matters, because he does not need to go all out versus these guys who he can like easily beat or beat with some effort. And when he needs to put some effort, he will only put in some effort. So that's why he can be frustrating to watch. I remember 2021, he was constantly losing sets to, I don't know, almost like random players at Grand Slams. But then at the end, he was almost, really close to actually completing the in-season Grand Slam. And it was kind of shame. I mean, I know this is kind of like off topic, but uh, even Medvedev was cramping. He actually admitted that Medvedev was cramping in the end of the third set. So if there wouldn't be a double break, maybe just a single break, Novak could have come back and like Nadal did versus Medvedev in Australia a year and a half later. I think he would have won that match. But that's completely off topic. So anyways, if you're a Novak fan, don't get baited. It's almost like baited. You don't get baited when he loses the first set because that's just energy preservation. You can see the effort raising. You can see the intensity raising. So just chill. It's okay. He's not going to lose these guys. It is what it is. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to my video. And yeah,